So just a month ago, the day before Easter, I started Game of Thrones, and 73 episodes, 73 plus hours later, I have officially finished the entire series. Last night, I watched the season finale, and holy crap, I never thought I would be able to binge a show like I binged Game of Thrones. For the first time on my YouTube channel, SvenSulley, I am talking about a TV series, and last night, one of the biggest climaxes for any TV show in the history was on Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 6, the final episode of one of the greatest shows ever. I heard so many great things about Game of Thrones over the years. My friends have been begging me to watch this series. So a month ago, I finally gave in and I binged the heck out of this show. I averaged about 2 seasons per week. That's how much I was digging Game of Thrones. It was one of the best experiences I have had watching a TV show / movie in my lifetime. Game of Thrones might go down as one of my top 3 favorite TV shows of all time. It's that good, and I'm so happy I was able to watch at least one episode live with everyone else on HBO. That was great. I was so happy I caught up in time for the finale. So let's talk about Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 6. As a matter of fact, we may as well just talk about the entirety of Season 8, because before I even got there, I heard a lot of controversial things. People were unhappy with how the season was going, and I wondered, what was all this buzz about? The bells, what is that? Why are people ticked off? I got there, and let me say, I can completely understand where everyone else is coming from with their hatred for Season 8, but I don't hate this season. I thought Season 8 was one of the worst out of the 8 Game of Thrones seasons that I binge-watched, but it's still pretty good. Is it on the same quality level of Season 4, which I think is downright the best season in all of Game of Thrones, with the best episode, The Watchers on the Wall? No, I don't think it's close to that, but you know, Game of Thrones is always enjoyable, and Season 8 had enjoyable moments with good character arcs, good character moments, and very entertaining action sequences like all Game of Thrones seasons. So we begin the episode directly after the bells, where Daenerys burned down King's Landing and thousands of citizens who were innocent inside the city. They are ashes now. Tyrion, Jon Snow, Davos, they're walking through King's Landing. Jon Snow encounters Grey Worm, who is killing Lannister soldiers who have surrendered. Nothing good is happening here in Episode 6. Daenerys, you have that great shot with Drogon behind her, walking towards the Unsullied and Dothraki. She is now officially the queen of King's Landing and the 7, well, later 6 kingdoms. This stuff here, it's all good. There's a lot of tension. You know something is going to happen. And I loved what this scene was doing. Tyrion, you know he's upset. He takes off his Hand of the King badge, throws it down. He says, "Not my queen." And I thought Tyrion was going to die here, or Jon Snow, one of these two. Instead, Tyrion is imprisoned. Jon Snow then has a long conversation. And the biggest issue I had with this episode is how slow it is for a series finale. Again, one of the best shows ever in the history of television. This is the climax here, the last episode of that TV series. And a lot of this episode was very slow. A lot of one takes that don't need to be in there. There isn't much momentum with this episode. It just felt very slow paced. I did really enjoy what this episode began with, as well as the scene where Daenerys and Jon, they're having a conversation, and he stabs her after kissing Daenerys. She dies. Drogon, he burns down the throne. It is melted. He takes her body. We have no clue where he's taking her, but that scene, I think, is one of the best of the whole season for sure, because Daenerys, she has been one of the central figures of this entire series in all the 8 seasons. And then Jon Snow kills her because she was an evil person in episode 5, killing all those innocent people, and I think that was the right move. Jon Snow, to kill her there was what I wanted to see in this episode, and we got it. After that, audiences are treated to a plethora of scenes that give us our final moments with certain characters. Bran is chosen as the king by all of the other important people in the Seven Kingdoms. Sansa declares that the North should be an independent kingdom like it always has been, so now there's only going to be 6 kingdoms ruled by the king, where the North is an independent kingdom once again. Bran as the king, I think it's fine. It's not a cliche pick. Jon Snow would have been the cliche pick here. Bran, he seems like that typical character that would have been picked in other TV series, where Bran, he's always been that guy you do feel sympathy for, since he was crippled after the first episode due to Jaime Lannister pushing him out a window. So I do understand why he was chosen as the king, because he has that ability of the three-eyed raven to see everything. He can make smart decisions with that power. And what else happens in this episode? Well, not all that much. In fact, that's about it. We see Brienne of Tarth. She has her closure with Jaime. She accepts the fact that he loved his sister and he died for the queen, Cersei. We also get a glimpse of the new small council meeting. So Sam, he is the maester there. We have Bronn return in this episode, which was great. I'm happy that a lot of these characters were fleshed out for this final episode. We get to see what they will be doing after the series is over. And Tyrion, of course, was picked by Bran to be the Hand of the King. I don't know how many times that is. He's been Hand of the King, 3 times now? So, hey, good for Tyrion. I think he deserved it. One of the final things I can applaud about the series finale is that it feels like all of the Stark main characters are in the right place. That being Bran as the king, it feels fine. I'm okay with that decision. Sansa, she is now the queen. She's ruling over the North, Winterfell, so that's cool. I like it there. You have Arya, who is traveling west of Westeros. I hope they do another series with that. I want to see what is west of Westeros. They never explored. I don't understand why they never explored what is west of Westeros, but it's really intriguing, so I hope they do more of that in the future. And then, of course, Jon Snow, the character that I feel like is the main character of the whole series. I know a lot of people think Tyrion, but for me, it's always been Jon Snow. He is that integral piece that puts together the entire puzzle. And him, for some reason, it made no sense. He gets sent back to Castle Black for the Night's Watch. But why do they need a Night's Watch when the White Walkers were taken out and the Wildlings are now peaceful? There's no point in having Castle Black or the Night's Watch anymore, but nonetheless, for some reason, Jon Snow is sent off to do that, and he goes beyond the wall to live with the free folk, where I think he always belonged. He is like their father. He is the reason why they have become more peaceful, while also giving them their freedom to live anywhere beyond the wall, over the wall, wherever they wanted to live. So for me, it does make sense where all of the characters remaining end up in this series. Jon Snow, I don't want to see him on the throne. I think it makes more sense because Ygritte, his old girlfriend, is even a wildling, and why would he not go back with those people if that's where she hailed from as well? I think it makes the most sense to have Jon Snow be with them for however long he's going to be over there. So it wasn't necessarily that this episode was a bad episode. I think it was okay, solid. The whole season was solid. Do I think it's the worst out of the 8 seasons? I would say so. I don't think it's as strong as seasons 1 through 7, and there are many reasons why. The whole thing about Daenerys, this is a huge twist in episode 5 where she turns evil. She's killing innocent people, and I was okay with that turn. But the biggest problem with doing that turn is that there is just not enough time to flesh that turn out. There are only 6 episodes in this season. I have no idea why seasons 7 and 8 only had 7 episodes and 6 episodes. It should have been more, but for some reason they decided to only go 7 and 6, and there was just not enough time to develop these storylines and to make it come across as more compelling while also being believable. And in episode 5, when Daenerys does what she does, I don't believe it. I can't cope with that idea of Daenerys killing a bunch of innocent people. That's not her character. If there was more time given and more episodes implemented into this season, then I'm sure they could have done something. But there were simply not enough episodes to flesh out that idea. So there was a lot of abruptness in this season. There are some things that don't make sense in episode 6, like Castle Black, and besides that, Bran. In one episode, he said he does not want to be a lord. All of a sudden, he wants to be king of all 6 kingdoms. And even before that, he said he didn't want to rule over Winterfell. So why would he want to rule over all 6 kingdoms all of a sudden? And then finally, with this episode in particular, the other 5, I think, were fine in this regard. But with episode 6, the pacing was just so bogged down. It felt like they had no idea where else to go with it. Just adding a bunch of long shots without cutting. I don't know what they were thinking with that. It was just so slow. And it didn't feel like much happened in this final episode. It was very bland. How could you have that be your final episode of a great series, one of the best of all time in the history of television? It was just boring and bland. The best word, in my opinion, to describe the series finale of Game of Thrones is underwhelming. This episode was not the best episode you could have utilized for a series finale of Game of Thrones. And I understand why so many people are upset. I think they could have done more, but the only way you can do more and make this final season better is by having more episodes. There should have been 8 to 10 episodes in this season, but no, they wanted to end it early, and we only got 6. Which sucks because of how good the previous 7 seasons were. For me personally, Game of Thrones, most of the seasons were A+ material. By season 8 though, it just doesn't feel like the same show, and the writing definitely took a turn downward. So I'm giving Game of Thrones season 8 a B-. Yeah, I decided to use a letter grade for Game of Thrones. If I do more TV series reviews in the future, maybe Stranger Things, then I will be giving them letter grades just to differentiate them from my movie reviews, which I give, of course, percentages. But Game of Thrones, what a great show. Not the best ending, very underwhelming for myself. A season 8 that I don't think audiences were looking for. It still had a lot of good stuff. That's why I gave it a B-. Not that bad. But as a whole, it could have been improved. I'm sad Game of Thrones is officially over, but I had a great time binge watching all 8 seasons in the span of a month just to catch up to that finale on the final night. Very happy I was able to watch that series finale with all of you diehard Game of Thrones fans. And of course, if you guys also watched the Game of Thrones series finale, be sure to let me know down below in the comment section what your thoughts were of it. We shall see if I do more TV show reviews in the future. I would love it. Ever since watching Game of Thrones, I have gotten more into TV shows, so we'll see what the future holds. If you're new to my channel, click that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.